Okay, so there's another good one as well, right? This is tying in from the realism one, which I think is it's a great little flow. Larry Boy says, "Are we talking about weightlifting or powerlifting now? What weightlifter squats 2 times a week?" I don't really know anything about weightlifting. I'm fairly new to weightlifting, but I know they squat a lot. There's actually weightlifters who squat twice a day without including the snatch, clean, jerk nearly most of the time. So just a segue in from Fitz's response there and what'll get you people watching this the best result. So I know Ridfar Suarez, who squats twice a week, isn't watching this and thinking, okay, the lads are going to help me get a better squat. I know Miso Asana, I know Luzar Jr. aren't watching this. I know Jimmy Shenanigan, Larry Boy 87, snatching 80 kilos and clean and jerking 100 kilos with a 100 kilo squat is watching this, and I know that this is what he most likely and very, very, very confidently say he needs to do to get better. So pointing to, like I said at the start, I don't know any 300 kilo squatters who squat every day, and I don't think it's a great argument most of the time, but nobody watching this is trying to squat 300 kilos realistically. Well, you might be trying to squat 300 kilos, but you're not going to probably squat 300 kilos realistically. So saying what elite weightlifters do is so far from being relevant to what people watching this video do. It might as well not even run on it. We might not even talk about it. Okay. Now, if you do wanna hear us talk about that, in our back squat masterclass, we talked about the difference between squatting for a 1RM and squatting for as a skill to support weightlifting. So there seems to be an effect in weightlifting with more frequency squatting for high level advanced weightlifters, some with drugs, some without drugs. They squat frequently to support a kind of neural readiness or a consistent neural stacking in their lifting. So it keeps them trained essentially, it keeps their legs fresh. Again, this is one of those kind of black holes where we're talking about where we don't really know what's going on in terms of like biology, but we know it seems to be consistent among elite weightlifters. Now, not all of them, no. As many do as don't squat this frequency. Supposedly the Chinese team only squatted something around twice a week with the advanced athletes. Gabriel said he squatted about 4 times a week. I found about 3-4 times a week myself the most productive, but even 2 and 3 works very, very well. But some of them, like Miso Asano, will squat every day. Ridfar Suarez will squat every day. Incidentally, both of those have had knee injuries in the last few months or year or so. So they're doing it to support weightlifting. But ultimately, even then, that is still, and they would know that is not the best possible way to get your squat or 1RM to the best result it could be. They know if they focused more on bigger 2 squat sessions, they would end up with a bigger squat at the end of it. They know if they approach it for more of a powerlifting 1RM style, they know they would end up with a better squat. They're squatting multiple times a week, not to get better at squatting 1RM. They're getting better to use squat as a skill, and they're doing it out through frequency. Most weightlifters, we see a lot of weightlifters are very, very slow. We see them with poor technique and poor timing. A lot of times this comes down from being weak, but ironically, they are squatting a lot, but they're very fatigued from the squatting a lot, so that makes them very slow, and it negatively affects their lifts, and then they feel like they need to squat more because their squats are low, and then ironically, you keep getting this vicious circle. So most amateur weightlifters are very, very slow, and they're weak, and it's from sometimes, a lot of times we see, multiple sessions of squats before the lifts going very, very heavy as frequently as possible. So they're training very, very slow, and they're also negatively affecting their squat because they're doing too much volume and they're under recovered. They are overtrained. They're training too much fatigue, essentially.
Also, I'm going to say this a bit tongue in cheek, but if you take the proportion of weightlifters you're watching as what you view as weightlifters to be Olympic level weightlifters now, the proportion of those that are on performance enhancing drugs or are definitely on performance enhancing drugs when they're training to go to the Olympics is further above 90% than you could imagine. And the people you think are clean and are from clean countries are still doing other things that you're not doing. So unless you're in that case where you're a full-time athlete, you're doping, you're taking substances that mightn't be deemed to be doping but are definitely doping, or you're actively evading a drugs test, then you probably don't need to pay attention to what those people do. In the same way where you're not going to sleep for 10 to 11 hours every night, you're not going to quit your real job and just train 2 or 3 times a day, and you're not going to give up everything else in your life, like having a social life, spending time with friends that aren't athletes, going out and doing things like going on holidays for more than a day or two, you shouldn't really be paying attention to the other things they do.
Inky, another very consistent commenter, God bless him, says, when you mean squat twice a week, does that mean also not doing any snatches or clean jerks more than twice a week to give my legs a rest? No, so snatch, clean jerks would be different. They're sport-specific movements, so they are lifts that we just kind of have to tolerate the fatigue from, because you want to be better at snatching, clean and jerking, and then you kind of manipulate for 95% of the time your squat around those. You take the hit to your squat from those, rather than not taking the hit from your lifts to the squats. So you want to keep your lifts as a priority for most people. Okay, so here's another one of those of whataboutisms. So, doesn't Clarence squat 5 times a week? How does it work for him? Even as a natural, he was squatting 230 HE for reps. Then, if you're Clarence, if you're 1 in a 10 billion, feel free to go for it. I have no problem. Again, I don't care what people do. I care what my athletes do. I care what people who are on our programs do. But for anyone watching this, if you feel like 5 times a week, and if you don't agree with what software says, I'm more than happy for you to go squat 5 times a week and prove me wrong and get 230 for multiple reps.
This whataboutism, right,
yeah,
is unique, and it comes up about Clarence all the time, right? Because people see Clarence as being the guy who coached himself, did it all on his own, was training in a shed. I've been honoured enough to meet some incredibly talented athletes, some of the athletes you would see as being the best people at lifting weights in the world. Clarence is among the top 2 or 3% of those people. You have no idea how genetically talented, mentally strong, so like in terms of being able to go and train that so much, that's a psychological precursor to success. So using Clarence now, if you're directly related to Clarence and you have that same kind of structure, you have that makeup and you have that mental tenacity to be able to go and do all that, by all means watch what he does. But people feel like Clarence is really relatable, and I don't quite know why that is. I don't know if that's just the other things he's into besides training. I don't know if that's because he didn't have a coach and he didn't seem to be involved in kind of national structures. But Clarence isn't like anybody else I've ever met.